delighted to be here so that I, as the United States Senator, can work with Tina when she becomes governor of the state of Oregon. And I want to thank Tina for her work on healthcare, her work on the environment, her work on women's rights, her work on raising the minimum wage. And while I'm here, I want to thank your Senator Jeff Merkley. I want you all to know that Jeff is one of the most progressive members of the U.S. Senate, and you should be very proud that he's representing you. I am here in Oregon today, which is a long way away from Vermont, a long plane trip, because I wanted to tell you what you already know, that we are living in unprecedented times. And that's true. We have more challenges facing this country and the world than we have had in our lifetimes. And at an unprecedented moment in American history, we right now are looking 2 weeks from now at an unprecedented midterm election, which is the most important midterm election in the modern history of our country. Yeah. So I want to say, in a very serious way, I want to kind of tell you what I think is at stake in this election. Let me just start off with something I know you're all familiar with, and that is a number of months ago, our extreme right-wing Supreme Court decided that they knew what was best for women rather than women themselves. And frankly, it shocked me, and I think the vast majority of the American people, to believe that in the year 2022, not 1922, not 1822, that women in America would no longer be able to control their own bodies. Outrageous. And what we have got to do as a nation is make it clear that it's not going to be politicians who make those decisions for women, but women themselves. This election is much more than women's rights and the right to choose. This election, as Tina indicated a moment ago, has everything to do with climate. And I wish I could give you some good news here. But all I can tell you is that, in fact, even more complicated is it's not just the United States. It is China, it is Russia, it is India, it is the entire planet having to stand up to the fossil fuel industry and to tell that greedy industry, that lying industry, that their short-term profits are not more. But this Canada, we are running against right-wing extremists all over this country. It is hundreds and hundreds of candidates for Congress, Secretary of State, and Governor. It's not just when you win an election, sometimes you lose it. It's not even people with disabilities to participate in elections. Now, your view and my view is what democracy. But when we talk about the undermining of American democracy, it is not just and his right-wing allies. Today, we have a corrupt political system. You know, and I know we take it all for granted. You turn on the TV and there's another ugly 30-second ad paid by some billionaire you never heard of. Billionaires, Bill Knight or anybody else, buy elections. This year alone, the top 1%, the very wealthiest people in this country, are spending over $1.6 billion to buy elections. And for those of us who believe in democracy, what we know, we've got to end this disastrous Citizens United Supreme Court decision. And we are going to move to public funding of elections. Now, I want to see more people in this country, young people especially, lower income people, get involved in the political process. And that means, I know it sounds hard, that means, maybe I can run for the school board, maybe I can run for the city council, maybe I can run for legislature, maybe someday I'll run for president of the United States. Okay? You can do it, but I don't want you to have to spend half of your time, which is now the case, raising money from wealthy people in order to run for office. That's not democracy. What this campaign is about, it's not just the attacks on women's rights, it's not just the disastrous threat of climate change, it is not just a corrupt political system, it goes even beyond that. Right now, all over our country, in Oregon, in Vermont, all over this country, people are working for long hours at inadequate wages. And I want to tell you just something, right? You go out and you see people are angry. Let me tell you why they are angry. Real inflation-adjusted wages are lower today than they were 50 years ago. Now think about that. Think about what that means. Think about the explosion in technology, right? All workers today are producing far, far more than workers did 50 years ago. And yet they're earning lower wages. Today in America, the likelihood is if we do not get our act together, the younger generation, unbelievably, will have a lower standard of living than their parents. Be unable to buy a house. Be unable to pay off their student debt and so forth. So what we are trying to do is to create an economy that works for everybody, not just the people on top. I want you to hear this also. It's not just that working class people are falling further and further behind. It's that the people on top have never, ever had it so good in American history. That's the truth. You don't see this on TV, and you're not going to hear it discussed much on the floor of the Senate or the House, or your senator will be one who does. And that is today, we have more income and wealth inequality than any time in American history. So here you have working people in Oregon and Vermont and all over this country worrying about how they're going to feed their kids, how they're going to be able to send their kids to college, how they're going to put gas into their gas tank. And yet the billionaire class are making out like bandits because they are bandits. So what you have today, and again, we don't talk about it as a nation, and we have got to talk about it. You tell me whether you think it is morally acceptable that 3 billionaires, 1, 2, 3, own more wealth than the bottom half of American society. Is it morally acceptable that during the pandemic, when tens of thousands of American workers did their jobs to keep the economy going and died? Tens of thousands died. 5,000 nurses died during this pandemic. People in public transportation died. More people are working in warehouses, in meatpacking plants, died to keep the economy going. And during that same period, the billionaire class saw their wealth increase by $2 trillion. And let me say a word, my Republican colleagues think they can score some political points by pointing out that we are living in a moment of inflation. Well, they're right. 8% inflation is high. And what they are doing is trying to say that Biden and Democrats caused that inflation. That is an absolute lie. They're going to have to explain how Biden and Democrats caused 10% inflation in UK, 2 points higher than in America. They're going to have to explain why inflation in Europe is at 11%, 3 points higher than in the United States. Now, inflation, which is a very, very serious problem, is caused by the pandemic and the breakdown in supply chains. It is caused by the horrific Russian attack on Ukraine. And let me tell you what else is causing the inflation, something that my Republican colleagues will not go near in 100 years, and that is the outrageous level of corporate greed that we're seeing right now. According to the most recent study that I have seen, corporate profits amount for over half of the outrageous rise in prices that Americans are paying for gas, food, groceries, and virtually everything else. And I want to just take a look at the moral implications of this. Here you have a world suffering with the pandemic. We've lost over a million people. The pandemic is not over yet. You got the terrible war in Ukraine and all the destruction, the breakdown in supply chains. And corporate America's fusion and pain. What can we do to make prices more economic? You got a war, let's do everything we can to raise prices as high as we can. Now, if you're sick and tired of paying $4 or $5 or even $6 a gallon for a gallon of gas, understand that the largest 5 oil companies in America made $59 billion in profits during the second quarter alone of this year. $5 for a gallon of gas. ExxonMobil's profits are up by 280%. Chevron's profits are up by 277%. The food industry putting food on the table. Cost of prescription drugs are soaring, while the 3 largest drug companies in America, Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, and AbbVie, increased their profits by 90% last year to $54 billion. And all of that reason, these are really, and I use these words advisedly, these are greedy bastards. Who have no shame, record-breaking profits, while people can't afford to fill up their tanks to get to work, people can't afford to feed their families, and then making record-breaking profits and using that for stock buybacks to their wealthy stockholders. And that is why your Senator Jeff Merkley and I believe we must have a windfall profits tax. right. And nothing to be apologetic about this. At a time of unprecedented income and wealth inequality and corporate greed, yes, the time is now for the wealthiest people and largest corporations to start paying their fair share of taxes. Now, Republicans have been busy, talking about all of the problems and what they're going to do. So let me help them out and tell you what they don't want you to hear, what their true agenda is. Okay, you're looking at a moment, as I mentioned, of unprecedented income and wealth inequality. Billionaires are getting richer. You know what the Republicans want to do? They don't talk about it too much now. They want to repeal the estate tax. Now, I know that nobody knows what the estate tax is, so I will explain it to you. It is a tax which applies only to the top 1/10 of 1%. 99.9% of the American people do not and will not pay an estate tax. But what it means is if you repeal it, which is what Mitch McConnell and others want to do, we will run up the national debt by $1.7 trillion. Now, as a result of repealing the estate tax, Elon Musk's family, and I don't know his family, I don't know his kids, but this is what I do know. Repealing the estate tax would be worth that the Musk family would get a tax break of $83 billion. And in all due respect to that family, I don't think that Musk's family deserves an $83 billion tax break. Now, in order to make up the difference in this huge tax breaks for the very, very rich, Republicans have another brilliant idea, and that is that at a time when so many of our seniors are struggling to heat their homes, to pay for prescription drugs and health care, they want to significantly cut Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. So that is what this campaign is about. It is about, among many other things, the choice of whether we demand that the wealthiest people start paying their fair share, or whether or not we adopt the Republican plan to give massive tax breaks to billionaires. I think the choice is clear. This campaign is not just about opposing the Republicans' reactionary ideas. This campaign is about bringing forward an agenda that the working families of this country desperately need. And it's an agenda that issue after issue is widely supported by the American people. You know, sometimes people say, people like Bernie Sanders and progressives, we are kind of fringy. We ain't fringy. What we are talking about is exactly what working families all over this country are pleading the U.S. Congress to do. So what are some of those ideas? Here's a radical idea that in America, if you work 40 hours a week, you should not live in poverty. Raise the minimum wage for everybody. Here's another radical idea, and that is if you want to join a union so you can get decent wages and decent benefits, you should not have to be opposed by large corporations like Amazon and Starbucks that are acting grossly illegally, trying to prevent workers from exercising their constitutional right to form a union. Here's another. You ready for another really radical idea? All right, I don't want anybody here collapsing. Maybe, just maybe, the United States should do what every other major country on earth does, guarantee health care to all people. Maybe we should end a system dominated by the private insurance companies, which costs us, I want you all to hear this, it costs us over twice as much per capita as the people of any other country are paying. Think about it. We are spending as a nation in all of our healthcare programs over $12,000 for every man, woman, and child. A family of four, $48,000. That is double what other countries are paying, and at the end of all that, you got 85 million people uninsured or underinsured. So let me be loud and clear and tell the insurance companies something. The function of a rational healthcare system is not to make tens of billions in profit for the insurance companies. It's to provide quality care to every man, woman, and child. This is what the American people want. These are not ideas that, somehow or another in some back room we thought of. This is what the American people want. Let me tell you what else they want. The American people are profoundly disgusted that we pay the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs. We, in some cases, I will never forget this. When I was running for president, I took people from Michigan, Midwest, into Ontario, Canada, to buy insulin for people who were diabetic. Anyone here know what the differential in price in Canada and the United States for the same exact insulin product was? It was 10 times. They were paying 10 times more in Michigan and in the United States than the folks in Canada were paying for the same product. And what the American people are saying loud and clear, we cannot let the pharmaceutical industry charge outrageous prices. Medicare has got to negotiate prices with the industry, cut prices in half. This is not a radical idea. The Veterans Administration has been doing exactly that for decades. And the American people understand that in a highly competitive global economy, we need to have the best educated workforce on earth. And more we're seeing bright young kids saying, you know what, I just can't afford to go to college. I don't want to leave school $50,000-$60,000 in debt. And that is why what the American people want, you want, and I want. What is common sense? 100 years ago, working class people said, let's make public education free and available to all up to the 12th grade. Well, the world has changed. And right now we have to have public education free and available to all through public colleges and universities. And President Biden took us a step forward by eliminating student debt for millions of Americans. We've got to go even further now. And here's an issue that I have been concerned about for years. Let me ask you a question right here in this room. How many of you know people who have been arrested for possession of marijuana? All over this country, people have gotten criminal records, occasionally have gone to jail because of possession of marijuana. The time is long overdue to legalize marijuana in this country. President Biden did the right thing by getting, right now you have I forgot the exact name of it, but you have a schedule in Washington for dangerous drugs. You got heroin, You got fentanyl, killer drugs, right alongside of marijuana. That is insane. And right now, I spent 10 minutes driving through Portland, and what I could see with my eyes, what I see in Burlington, Vermont, you got a homeless problem right here. We have 600,000 Americans who are homeless, and I look forward to working with Tina, your next governor, in addressing that. Let me just say that I know that many people are disappointed that the Democrats have not been stronger. We did some good things, we didn't do enough, because among other things, we have two people in the Democrats in the U.S. Senate who are corporate Democrats. That is why I'm going all over this country to fight for 52 Democrats at least in the Senate. So here we are right now in a nation and a world that are facing excruciating problems, complicated problems. We've got an election coming up in 12 days. And what I am asking all of you is not to allow right-wing Republicans to divide us up, which is what they do. Spend a lot of time dividing us up based on the color of our skin, based on our sexual orientation, based on where we were born. We cannot allow ourselves to be divided up. Our strength is in unity. I wasn't a mathematics genius, but I do know that 99% is a bigger number than 1%. Our job now is to expose the Republicans for their hypocrisy, to fight for an agenda that works for all of us. We can do it. Many of the ideas, I just had the ambassador from Finland came to Vermont with me a couple of weeks ago. In Finland, college tuition is free. Healthcare costs are virtually free. Childcare is 1/10 the price of what it is in this country. These ideas that we're talking about are not radical ideas. They are the ideas that the American people want and believe in. So in the remaining few days, this is what we need from you. We need not only that you go out and vote, as important as that is, bring 2 or 3 friends. You bring 2 people, you've tripled your political impact, and you can do it. So let's go out in the next 10 days, let's do everything that we can to win this election. Let's do everything we can to make Tina Kotek the next governor of Oregon.